And good morning, New Mexico. We are 99.9 FM, MA10. It is time now for the Rusty Nut Show. Yes, indeed. Heard every Tuesday at 10:30. We want to thank, of course, the Rusty Nut himself, Mr. Gabriel Garcia of the Auto Angel, and his familia, Caroline, and all his staff. And, of course, Advanced Auto Parts, proud sponsors of this great show. So, Gabriel, Rusty Nut, you're not rusty that way. You're rusty and as far as knowledge. Know what I mean?
Well, it's like just comes with age, bro. Experience is like horsepower. You either got it or you don't.
And you got the Whistleberry horsepower is what you got,
Hey, we're
brother.
powered by Whistleberries. This show is authentic to Nuevo Mexico. Thank you, everyone who's tuning in today. Those of you who just landed on the dial, my name is Gabriel Garcia, and I've been in the automotive repair industry for over 32 years. All of that here in Santa Fe. Patricio, this show is an attitude of gratitude. So I want to take a quick second just to thank you and your family for having shows like this on the radio. You guys have water wise shows, you have the DWI shows, you have all these different shows that are local to here in northern New Mexico where people can get useful information. And the purpose of this show is to try and teach people about their second largest investment in life next to what, Patricio?
Next to your home, of course.
There you
And
go.
keeping you in front of the tow truck, not on top of the tow truck. And also, but I thought the focus of this show was to dog me. You and Josh did a good job of dogging me last week, brother. Man.
You would think that there was regular listeners, they would have told you about that.
Oh,
So
there's a
maybe
bunch
you
that
have
told
one
me.
or two fans. That's good. That's good. Well, that's what you get for not showing up to work.
There were about 79, 80 that told me that you guys were dogging me. I said, that's
Seven or
okay.
nine, 7 or 9 people.
79 or 80. And I said, they gotta make themselves look good because, natural, they're not good
But you
looking,
weren't
first of all.
here to help us look good.
There you go. Well, I want to be educated is what I want. I don't want to look
All
good. I
right.
want to learn about protecting our second biggest investment. So dale vuelo.
Ándale. So those of you who just landed on the station, don't change the dial yet. Give us a minute. We're gonna give you some useful information. This next 30 minutes can save you some big money. So let's talk about first. I want to thank my team here at the Auto Angel. As we speak, I've got guys under cars. I've got girls on phones. I've got all kinds of people helping me have the freedom to be here with you and our listeners. So thank you to our team here at the Auto Angel. We always want to have a red, white, and blue thank you. This is to all enlisted servicemen and women, active duty, stateside, abroad, reservists, veterans, and more than anything, the families that support them, because those are the moms, dads, brothers, wives, and stuff that are at home worried about that loved one they have who's volunteered to serve our country. And, it's a big support factor that is sometimes overlooked. We take the time to thank the servicemen when we see them. Thank you for your service. Well, we should really say thank you to their families for supporting them. So thank you so much for all of them involved in that.
Amen. We appreciate it. Yep. Everybody, all the kids, the wives, the husbands, grandparents, todo la familia. Thank you.
It's la verdad.
And our
then
police
we have-
officers
there
and
you go.
firefighters, now we've been seeing those of you that go up to the Sierra or up to the mountains and on the weekend or during your day off, see a lot of firefighters going up there, those that are fighting the forest fighters and stuff. I mean, the forest and things like this where fires break out. So we want to just thank them as well. Bam. They have it brutal.
There you go. That's what I like to hear. We always just an attitude of gratitude. So that's the biggest thing that we want to say is thank you to all these people. And on that same note, we always try and take a minute to say, there's so many jobs out there that people do every day. And yeah, they're earning a paycheck for it. But a lot of us just take the work they do for granted and we don't ever take the time to thank them. They might even be members of our own family. And it's just, oh, my dad goes to work or my mom goes to work. But what do they really do there? Or do they ever really get any thanks? So we try to take a different occupation once a week and just say a special, we call it the Azul Gracias. This is a blue collar thank you. So today we're going to thank heavy equipment operators. I think a couple specifically.
Mhm.
Patricio.
Yeah.
So who's that? That's your buddy of yours?
Well, I know. Even if you want to talk about Benny Samara driving
There
that big
you
old
go.
truck, and then of course you got Benny, and you got my bro-in-laws that operate sometimes those big bulldozers, and those puppies can flip over on you de olas if you're not careful, brother.
There's a lot of truth to that. I mean, any of you out there who've ever, that know you should lock the brake pedals on a backhoe together know what I'm talking about. So to you out there who understand what that means, thank you. For
Yep.
those of you out there who understand what an outrigger is, and those of you who understand, the danger of power lines and even stowing away the backhoe or the equipment before you haul it down the highway, all those factors. I mean, you and I have been on the roads where people are weaving in and out of traffic and getting in front of these big truck drivers, and they're carrying a big old excavator on the back. You can't stop that on a dime. So, they're being careful and they're keeping their patience in their cool to keep the rest of us safe. So thank you to all of you heavy equipment operators from the Rusty Nut Show. We really appreciate what you do every day.
Gracias. Yep. I like it.
Yeah.
Yep.
But like the Three Stooges, you're stealing their material, bro. You got to come up with your own movida, bro.
I want to say
let's
that
get into the Kyobo of the day. What's your
Wait a
Kyobo?
minute. I want to say I missed you last week, but I'd be lying.
Kyobo of the day.
Q of the day. Okay.
All right.
Q
Last
of the
week
day?
I said it, but I'm going to say it one more time. Michael Waterman, you rock, bro. Your turn.
He listens all the time. Herson listens all the time. You know what I mean? Herson Montoya.
All right. How about Herson? He's over there doing alignments. What about Ranger?
That's right. Ranger, my buddy Ranger at the new old San Fe Trail Garage. He's tough. Bertram Quintana has a construction company. Bertram listens all the time. And our good friend there at Action Glass.
James.
James.
Familia, they're good people.
Mm-hmm.
Protec, Easy and Heating, all that plebes. So anyway, thank you to all of them. I got to say hi to my mom real quick. Mi esposa Carolina. Patricia's doing his mama. Patricia. And then we're going to go into a Spanglish lesson, so we might as well get to Norma real quick.
Let's do it. I'm going to promote
famous, notorious La Norma.
I'm going to promote the Advanced Auto Parts, proud sponsors of this great show, and of course the Auto Angel, good people for all your automotive needs. It's the Auto Angel, or as we mentioned, of course, Ranger there at the new old San Fe Trail Garage. Good people. Hablando de buena gente, mira La Norma. Those of you that are watching us on Facebook,
buenos días a todos.
Buenos días,
Norma.
a
toda la gente bonita de Nuevo México. ¿Cómo están?
Muy bien, bendecidos.
El otra semana lo faltó.
Yo, pero el Gabriel y el Josh me está hablando de mi hijo.
Yo sé. Yo estaba preparada para usted y luego me dijeron, no, es Josh.
Mi mamá estaba más enojada con ellos hablando de su hijito.
Que es un santo, ¿verdad?
¿Qué es la palabra de hoy? El Spanglish word.
Robar.
Robar, ok.
Ajá, robar.
Dime.
Se robaron mi carro.
Oh, ok. Yo pensé que iba a decir, se robaron mi Catalytic Converter.
También, imagínese, se lo llevan en partes.
Bueno, se robaron mi carro.
Sí, así es. Se sacó un 10.
Es un 10. Gracias. Dios te bendiga.
Igualmente, saludos a todos. Bye, bye.
Bye, bye. Ok. Bueno, robar.
Vámonos a robar. Speaking of robar, what do you call a guy with a rubber toe?
No sé qué.
Roberto.
That's a good one. I like that one. Roberto.
Anyway.
Dale.
And then there's a dicho que dicen el. Go ahead, what?
No, dale, because I was going to talk about the converter.
Órale, and that's where since we're talking about catalytic converters, is the topic today. We use Norma to introduce us to stolen. And remember, this show, every week we pick a different topic. And this morning I got a phone call, and it's the third phone call I've had at least this year that is revolving around a catalytic converter being stolen.
I'm surprised you're still doing that.
Well, and I'm glad that you're surprised. So that means it's a good topic for me to kind of reinforce. And we're going to talk about some ideas on how to protect yourself. So we'll get started on it, but we'll go real quick with a dicho que el gato llorón no matan ratón.
The cat that whines doesn't kill a rat.
There you go. So quit crying there, Patricia.
Isn't it el gato que no le gusta trabajar no mata nada, no come?
No comen, está muriendo de hambre.
Está muriendo de hambre. Ya, y también se robaron el Catalytic Converter del carro de mi hijo cuando él estaba en college.
Yeah, they'll do that. And that's why you should have sent them to UNM. They would have just stole the whole truck from Albuquerque. They wouldn't have messed around with a cat.
Hey, don't mess around with UNM, brother. NMSU, nobody messes with them. That's where your Hita goes to school.
My Hita goes to UNM, bro. They'll just take her car. At least then we can report the whole car stolen, not just part of it. Anyway,
Okay.
let's get moving into a catalytic converter. Let's talk about it real quick. So I mentioned this before. Catalytic converters is basically like a muffler. Okay, so those of you listening, catalytic converter is not something that you need to necessarily lose any sleep over. It's technology that's been present forever. It's virtually on every vehicle that's out there on the road today. Remember this show, we target cars that are 12 years old, but this technology has been around forever. Catalytic converters' job is they use chemical reactions to clean the pollutants or harmful gases from the exhaust to make the world a better place to live in. So as you burn gasoline, and even as diesel is burned, what doesn't get burned completely exit the exhaust. So it's kind of like putting that big piece of ocote in your fogon, and you got black smoke coming out of the chiflon on the top. That's wasted energy. That's pollutants. So by not completing the burn, we're polluting the earth. So cars can't burn the gas perfectly, so there will be waste. And the catalytic converter's job is to reduce that waste so that the air is cleaner for our whole world, not just for different cities or towns. But what's going on right now is catalytic converters are built with precious metals like palladium. I don't never even heard that word. Rhodium and platinum are commonly used in these. And right now there's a worldwide shortage of these materials. Most of these materials, I did a little bit of research before I brought this topic up, is that most of them are coming out of South Africa. And because of COVID, the supply chain has been broken, the mining has been stopped. A lot of factors have made it to where these already precious metals have become even more harder to get, less available. Okay?
Right.
So because every single car on the road has catalytic converters that contain these precious metals in them, the demand is high. So in a traditional car has 100,000 miles, the catalytic converter needs to be replaced because it's defective. You have to buy one. Well, the people who make them need to buy these precious metals for a living. They need to have these precious metals available to make their product. So they go to their normal supplier. It's not available. The supplier has to get it from somewhere. So catalytic converters are recycled for sure. So they're one of the pieces of cars that are recycled. But what's happening again now is this demand for them is so high that there's more of a black market kind of option that's becoming more interesting to buyers. Does that make sense? In other words, they're valuable and people are stealing them and they have a source to sell.
Yeah, and I guess not here in New Mexico, right? Because I think there's legislation passed. That's why I said I'm surprised that they're still selling catalytic converters, because I thought there was legislation that was passed that if somebody before this legislation was passed, what would people do with a catalytic converter? They'd go and get money for it, right? At what places would buy these?
So a recycling center or a place that deals in metal recycling would purchase them. Like you see cars going down the road all the time with washer and dryers and bed springs and all kinds of metal, and they're going to recycle it. Where they're going doesn't matter. Regardless, is that there's a market for scrap metal.
Okay.
Always has been. You and I grew up at a time we used to sell aluminum cans down there where McDonald's is now. Well, they're on Siler.
I remember. I'm not that old, but you are. But yeah, I remember.
They didn't even have aluminum cans when you were a little kid. They
only had bottles, glass.
Anyway, so there's a market for it. But you're right. That's legislation. Again, laws keep honest people honest for the most part. And they reduced or they stopped one avenue of traffic. So they took an honest business and said, you have to get credentials from the person selling it. So somebody couldn't come with a whole truck full of cats that are all freshly cut, and he has to account for who he bought them from. So somebody who's stealing catalytic converters now has to find another source to sell them. Question. Let's see if
Profound
it's
question.
profound. A
You
ver,
got
let's see.
profound. So you mentioned, of course, and this, it's not only that I've heard that with the precious metals that there's a shortage and they're hard to come by. I've also heard about computers for vehicles and stuff like that. But with the catalytic converters, let's just say mi carrito needs a catalytic converter and you can't, or when you order it, it's going to take 3 months to come in. Is that going to jack up your car, running your car when the check engine light goes on and you've diagnosed that it's a catalytic converter? Profound? Admit it. Josh never asked profound questions like that. Josh was asleep at the wheel.
Josh had you beat 10-1, bro. And
Josh would probably say, Gabe, how do you put air in my tire?
Josh asked some real man questions.
Yeah. Don't change the subject. Answer that profound question I have.
So to answer your question, if you're having to wait for your catalytic converter to come in, driving the car around with a check engine light is probably in a lot of cases not going to cause a bigger problem. In some cases it can. A catalytic converter can become so restricted that the car won't even run. But remember, the topic of this show, we're coming into this, is the fact that not that the car needs it, it's that it got stolen. Okay. So what I'm trying to do with today's show is take the information I've gotten, and this is a recent demand that I've just been faced with. The customer I'm talking about today was parked outside of a local business on Saturday, middle of the day. It was parked there all day. And from the morning he drove there, when the afternoon when he went to leave, he started a car. And what do you think it sounded like?
Like you had headers.
Yeah, and it sounded like a big exhaust, like a race car is what he did.
A race car.
So a lot of you listening, somebody like my mom, hi mom, she can relate to it. It sounded like a Harley Davidson almost. So you had a really quiet Prius, in his case, fired it up. Now it sounds like a Harley. He knew instantly something's wrong. And he didn't have a clue as to what, but once he said, hey, my car sounds like, like a race car, I knew right away. I said, somebody stole your cat. And the term that we use is cat. Follow?
Got it. Okay, I'm keep going.
Cat converter. So what can we do? So first of all, there is a demand, and even with legislation passed, the legislation is helping legitimate businesses stay legit. They gave them an avenue to protect themselves from buying stolen products or for being wrongly accused of stolen goods. And it did shut down one avenue or vein for that product to be processed. But being an automotive business here in town, I've had people call, sometimes 2 in 1 week, saying, hey, do you have cats for sale? We buy them. And I've even had some people, we had one guy come in here and he pulled out a roll of cash money and waved it in our face and said, I'm not screwing around. I'm here to buy cats. And he couldn't believe that I had no interest, because we don't really do exhaust here. So we don't legitimately usually produce that many bad cats. Okay. Got it. So what that means is in our business, we don't deal with a lot of them. So I don't have an abundance of them to sell because of no value to me. He had a hard time taking that no. But what I'm using that story to tell people is there's people waving cash in your face all of a sudden is an inspiration. Like, maybe I'm going to produce me a cat because that dude's willing to pay me hundreds of dollars cash, no questions asked, in exchange for this product. So there is a demand out there, and where these people are coming from, where they're going, I don't know. I wasn't present when he walked in the door, but it doesn't matter. The bottom line is there's a demand for it, obviously, because I've got clients coming in the door. I had one client that had 2 cars hit in one day. Go ahead.
No. Okay. So, and this is during broad daylight. Before I used to think they'd do it at night. So, one, how do they steal a catalytic converter?
Perfect. 2, now that's a question.
Whoa, there's puro profound. You know what I mean? Josh would have asked you, how do I open my door? And you would have answered him. Anyway, how do they steal it? And then, of course, what can people do? Because you're saying that they're doing so desperate that they're doing it in broad daylight.
And they're bold. And I think, the legislation, again, I'm not sure what the law demands for incarceration or what, but obviously these guys aren't afraid of getting caught. So anyway, moving forward, I have a catalytic converter right here that I wanted to use. So here's one live. Okay. Real deal. This is one that we unbolted from a car, so you can see it has a place to be bolted. And on the other side, a lot of them, so on one like this that's bolted, they would have to take some type of wrench to unbolt it. So this is not going to be a prize for somebody who's trying not to get caught.
Okay.
So some of the other ones are more, it has more pipe on the end of it, which makes cutting it easy. And one of the ways they cut it is with this tool right here. So this is basically a chain connected like pliers with a chain. So I don't know how you could describe this on the radio, but the whole idea is you take that chain and wrap it around the pipe, and it has little wheels on it like a can opener. And then you just move it back and forth, and keep tightening it, and it cuts right through that pipe in a circle, just like a can opener opens a can.
Or if you're familiar with a plumber, that's like a pipe. They make those pipe cutters to cut the
That is
copper.
exactly what it's for.
Palo, yo estoy más inteligente. You know what I mean?
You are smarter than the
This show
average
is
man.
back on top, baby. Back on top. Last
Well, if you
week.
quit taking days off, we can stay there. We don't even want to talk about where your wife made you go that day.
Folks,
Anyway,
those of you listening on the radio, though, go to Facebook and check it out, because Gabe just held up that tool that shows how they can cut the pipe. And it's pretty amazing how they do that. I used to think, or I thought before Gabe showed me that tool, is that you get like a battery operated Zaza or saw that cuts metal, and they do it right away. But I heard that makes too much noise. Pardon?
Zaza Gabor?
Zaza Gabor?
A Sawzall.
A Zaza, yeah.
No,
Not Zaza Gabor, but a Zaza.
Anyway.
It cuts.
You're welcome, Benny.
Like
you're welcome.
A Zaza is like a saw, but it cuts metal. And it can cut wood, but it depends on the blade.
Okay, so they do make a cordless Sawzall. Saws all, like it saws everything. Saws all. I don't know.
Zaza Gabor.
I never heard of Zaza, bro. I don't know where you came up with that one.
My Spanglish.
Anyway,
Norma taught me that.
Norma, he's blaming you for his inability to properly name tools. She's already dialing your wife, bro. You're done. She's already calling her, man. She said that Patricio's throwing her under the bus. Anyway, so let's talk about how we're going to protect it. So, you know, it takes, how long do you think it takes for a thief to steal a cat?
27 seconds.
3 minutes on average.
Oh, 3 minutes?
3 minutes it takes.
That guy's not a thief.
Some of these cars are low. They got to get underneath them. There's certain cats that bring more value, and they know which ones they're looking for. Okay. Those of you driving Generation 1 and 2 Priuses, I'm not defaming the Toyota product. It's just their catalytic converter is very sought after right now. And I've had 3 calls in the last year specifically to that Prius make and model.
Wow.
So and Toyotas in general. So how are we going to prevent it? What could we do to stop that? So solutions, these are Rusty Nut certified solutions. Some of these I was, looking into on the internet. So number 1 solution, Rusty Nut certified, is have a garage sale. How about that? Yep, a garage sale. Get rid of some of your Guerreros so you can park your Rampla inside the garage where it belongs.
Got it. I like that one.
Harder. I mean, most of it, you go through Balama, there's not, the garages, all the cars are parked outside.
Okay.
And I've been guilty of it myself, where my garage has more junk in it, bikes and whatever things, but I don't put the car in there. So you might want to consider that. And how much you think it costs to replace one of these catalytic converters, Patricio?
I'm going to go about $1,600.
So you're right in the middle. So somewhere between $1,000 to $2,500 you might invest in one of these. So is it worth it for you to put in your garage?
Heck
you might consider it is, for sure. So if you don't have a garage, maybe parking it in a well-lit area with high traffic is an advice that I found online, where they're saying, let's say you do have to park it somewhere for dinner or something. You might pick someplace where there's more lighting or where there's a lot of people. Go ahead.
No, I was just I'll have to tell my wife I'll have to take the doghouse out of the garage so she can park her car in there.
You're going to have to sleep outside, Patricia. And then I talked to, across the street from me is a place called Audio Express. And I called up Miguel over there. Everybody who knows Miguel calls him Food. Big guy, he's been there forever. Great person, knows what he's talking about. He said he did an alarm specific for this recently, where they wired up the alarm system, normal alarm, where like if you open the door, it goes off and it has a little remote that chirps. But the thing they did different to protect this customer's exhaust, the catalytic converter, was they put a motion sensor underneath the car. So again, this is like locking a glass door. You know, I lock the glass door in this building every night, and I rely on the alarm system to help keep honest people honest. An alarm's not perfect, but it's one more step, one more piece of deterrent. So yes, you could argue, well, what if a cat goes under there, or my neighbors, or whatever? All I'm saying is there's one more option that might work for you. What
I
about,
like it.
who is it that you use for insurance on the show? Who is it that you refer to?
Debbie Aranda, A&B Insurance.
So there you go. Hello, Debbie Aranda.
And,
You know, I'm
and there's also
encouraging.
one more, and Silas Garcia.
And
The
Silas
Lord from
Garcia.
Silas
Right on.
Garcia.
And a bro of mine is Greg Tyra over at Del Norte. Anyway, these people, I always encourage people, you should know your agent. What insurance you use. Doesn't matter. Know your agent. They're the ones that you want to be able to call and say, hey, Debbie, hey, Silas, hey, Greg, you know, am I covered? If somebody steals my cat and it costs $2,500, what's my deductible? And find out if there's coverage available. It'd be nice to help you sleep better. Say, well, at least if they take it, I know I can call up Silas and he says I got a coverage and my deductible is affordable and I'm going to leave my junk in the garage and I'm going to just buy insurance better. Up to you, but it's another piece of the puzzle to help protect your second largest investment, okay?
That's a great point, you know, because I would have never thought that your insurance might have covered
I don't know if they do, but it's a good time to ask. Better to ask before it's gone.
Yes,
and
sir.
now we'll talk about buying some type of lock or device for it. They actually you could go online and Google something called a cat clamp. So it's a big bunch of cables and you have to have a shop install it usually because you're winding cables around these locks and, you know, and again, the whole idea there is to make it so it's, you know, a thief looks under your car and says, oh no, and just moves to the next one. They'd rather go to an easy one. You know, I'm in favor of the club when you don't want your car stolen, that one that goes across your steering wheel, because it just helps keep punks to leave your car away. You know, a real thief will take it, but somebody who's just doing it for fun or just not a professional, he's going to go to another car. It's just easier. So they'll stay away from the one with the alarm. They'll stay away from the one with the club. In this case, if they look under your car and it has this big device protecting the cat, they're probably going to move on because they only have 3 minutes and they'll just go pick another one. Right. There's also, you can have a shop professionally weld in some deterrents as well. So instead of maybe buying a clamp, somebody might say, well, you know, you can weld in a piece of steel that these small little wheels that are designed to cut round pipe, you know, you add a piece of rebar to that round pipe, all of a sudden this is useless. Oh,
right.
So there's another option. And again, these things you can Google, you can look them up and it'll help you decide on options that are working out there. There's even specific like plates you can buy specific to certain cars where it can be bolted to protect that hole underneath. Again, it's all deterring. All we're trying to do is get them moving to somebody else's car. Not out of lack of respect. It's just you're protecting your own investment.
Minute and a half.
A
minute and a half.
All right. So here's another one. An easier one would be that we'd go as far as in just engraving your license plate number or your VIN number on the catalyst. So real quick on this cat, it has a tin shield around. That's removable. Engraving your number on that's not that helpful. But over here where it's actually metal, that's part of the cat. If you engrave the VIN number there, license plate, it's not going to keep them probably from stealing it, but potentially will give a police department a way to prove that part is stolen. So long term, somebody pulls over a truck full of cats and one or two of them have VIN numbers on it. They research it back to you and you had a police report saying it was stolen. Boom, they got grounds to, you know, go ahead and prosecute that person for theft or possession of stolen goods or whatever. So that, and then I've even seen some guys painting them. And I think that might be a really good deterrent. Also, I think we're going to try that on our shop. We have a Prius that we use here at the shop. I think we're going to engrave it, maybe even this afternoon, and then paint it. And that way, if a thief crawls under there and there's this bright pink cat, all of a sudden it's not too desirable because that's just a thorn in their side.
They'll think you left your apron there.
Yeah, they'll probably think that for sure. So that's probably, you know, the mitote or the rumor is that there's even some famous sites on social media. Some of the most famous sites have marketplaces where you can buy and sell stuff. Supposedly, I didn't bother looking, but there's supposedly guys out there advertising that they'll buy this stuff and they teach you which ones they want. So the problem's bigger than right here in our community, but it is here in our community. So, you know, if you think it's not going to happen to you, why not? Why would it happen to your neighbor but not you? So again, this could be a $2,500 expense to you. Is it worth protecting? Something as simple as parking it in the garage, something as simple as maybe buying an alarm to protect the car. So those are some things to think about.
I love it. Great show, Gabriel. And of course, we want to thank the Auto Angel and his staff. We want to thank Advanced Auto Parts, proud sponsors. And again, find somebody that you trust, somebody that's honest. And we always say, there's Gabriel. He's his whistleberries are acting up. You have to go outside because he's powered by whistleberries. But anyway, the Rusty Nut Show. Heard every Tuesday right here on 99.9 FM, M810, and Gabriel Garcia of the Auto Angel. God bless you guys.
Mi
Back
hermana
to the studio.
Susana, Chovo.